up, creeps, and welcome to another brand new episode of the Epic Film Guys podcast. I am Justin.
I am Jeremy.
How dramatic of you.
I'm BluBrry.
Are you ready? Did you just, magically turn Southern? Are you from Georgia or some shit?
No. Fuck no. I apologize to all of our listeners from Georgia.
Uncle Baby.
All three of you.
All three of you toothless motherfuckers.
All three of you. Yeah, well.
Well.
All right, that's it, guys.
That's the show for this week.
Thank you so much for
thanks
tuning
for listening. No, we're going to be talking about monsters. And those of you that have been listening to this series, it's been a while since we've covered another one. We've done the 70s, we've done the 80s, we've done the 90s. So tonight we are here to count down our top 5 monster movies of the 2000s, which is the year 2000 to the year 2010.
Mm-hmm. Which we all agreed on without even having to talk about it. There was no pre-show discussion. It just, we all automatically knew that it was 2000.
We all automatically knew that's what we were going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Without any planning at all whatsoever, because we have this strange psychic ability or some bullshit like that where we just know what we're going to be doing. But hopefully, I think this is a good era for monster movies. Honestly, the more and more I think about it when we've done these countdowns, I don't think when you start in the 70s and then from there on, I don't think there's a shitty era at all for monster movies. I mean, maybe more recently, but not even at all, actually. I don't know. What do you guys think?
No, I don't think. I think the 70s is probably where it only gets better. I mean, I love the 30s, 40s, and 50s. I'm gonna be
of course.
I don't really know a ton of 60s horror movies, but 70s starts off strong and just you never really let up.
Yeah, so that's what we're here to do, and we might as well jump right the fuck into it and be ready as always. As is customary, we will start with you.
Aw, thanks.
The youngest member of the
young
show.
piece of shit. Your knees don't even hurt yet, little bitch.
Oh, yeah, they
Be
do.
ready.
Because I got that cartilage damage, baby. So, coming in hot at number 5 for me.
Number 5
is a PG-13 horror movie.
Boo.
From 2003. And the plot is a vengeful spirit has taken the form of the Tooth Fairy to exact vengeance on the town that lynched her 150 years earlier, and her only opposition is the only child, now grown up, who has survived her before. I'm talking about Darkness Falls.
I knew your ass was going to put that on your list.
It's so
I knew it.
fun.
I still haven't seen it.
I love this movie so much.
I still have not
Jerry.
fucking seen that movie, dude.
You gotta watch it. I've talked about it on this podcast many times, but there's moments of true terror. I think when I saw it, I was super fucking young. This might be one of the only movies that I saw around the time it came out, so I would have been like 8 or 9, and it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I was just floored. Like, the Tooth Fairy, this fucking thing is terrifying. And it's anytime,
I just
anytime
looked up a
out.
picture of it, and it looks kind of almost like Freddy Krueger-esque with really long, stringy white hair.
Yeah, dog. It's good.
It's some spooky shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it soon.
Yeah, you should. You said that last time, and that was like a year and a half ago.
I know.
But it's got James Vanderbilt was one of the writers.
It's really good. Takes up most of my time.
Is it kind of like the Thing? Is it like that?
Does it deal with a research group out of Antarctica?
The closing credits run for 11 minutes on this movie. And it's because without the extra time, the movie would have been considered too short to release theatrically. So they had to make the credits 11 minutes.
Damn.
Crazy.
So in other words, you're saying that it's not going to take up very much of my time, and I should definitely watch it.
It's like an hour and 28 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, man.
A perfect runtime for a small, little PG-13 horror movie.
That is very, very effective as a PG-13 horror movie. But yeah, number 5, Darkness Falls. When darkness falls.
Oh, yeah.
Number 5. Who wants
Thanks,
a number
Howard.
5? Number 5 for me is from 2007. It's a film about a freak storm that unleashes a species of bloodthirsty creatures on a small town where a small band of citizens hole up in a supermarket and fight for their lives. I'm talking about The Mist.
Ooh, great pick.
Yeah, I knew this would be on your list too.
Yeah, man, it's just as good now as it was when it came out. I just revisited it not that long ago, and man, from the creature designs to the claustrophobia of the, all the characters stuck in the grocery store, and I worked in a grocery store for many, many years, and so like I feel like when this movie came out, I was like, oh man, yeah, that's where I'd want to be. At least you got all the food and necessary supplies. But I love the religious elements that came out in this, and the paranoia mixed with the creatures and people turning against each other, which is exactly what would fucking happen in real life, man. Like, people turn into savages when all the odds are down and when it's every man for themselves scenario. So there's a lot of different layers to this movie. It wasn't just people stuck in a grocery store with monsters, right? Like, there's a lot of different layers to this movie. There's a lot of different characters. It has Andre Braugher, R.I.P., who just passed away recently, who, man, not only was he absolutely fucking hysterical on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but God, he was just such a good actor. He was in a couple Stephen King adaptations. He was also in the Rob Lowe starring Salem's Lot miniseries, and in this one as well. And his performance was brilliant as ever, of course, with Thomas Jane delivering a fantastic performance as well. And
I would say career, like top career.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, dude, you can't talk about this movie without talking about the end of this movie. One of the most fucking heartbreaking endings
I'll never forget seeing it in theaters. Oh, man. The groan that came out of the audience it just permeated throughout the entire theater.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I had no idea what place this was going to be in my top 5, but I knew it was going to be there. So that's my number 5.
Yeah, great, and of course, icon Frank Darabont fucking behind the camera, just perfection, dude.
Which is why there were so many.
He's done some good Stephen King adaptations too.
Yeah, he did Shawshank and Green Mile as well. Yeah.
Which is also why there was a few Walking Dead cast members that were in The Mist, because this was a precursor to The Walking Dead coming out. So he kind of cherry picked some great actors to tag along with him on the Walking Dead journey that he started.
Yeah, great pick. I
fantastic pick. Yeah, for sure. My number 5, and give me shit now if you want to for how low it is, comes from 2008, directed by the man that made the Batman, Matt Reeves. I'm talking about Cloverfield.
Yeah.
And, I think we talked about this a little bit in passing when the anniversary landed a few weeks back in the group chat. I've been outspoken in terms of not being a fan of found footage style horror films. It's just not really my thing. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't seen some that I've enjoyed. And in my older age and getting more mature as a cinephile, if you will, I've found a newfound appreciation for the style, and especially this movie, because it was the first time you ever saw a monster movie from this viewpoint and with this style. And I love how it kind of took the Jaws route, where you didn't see a lot of the monster at all. It was just how people were reacting to it. And of course, it is a post 9/11 situation where, after 9/11, every single monster movie that you would see come out, get released, approached the destruction in a different way. And we see it through a different lens because it's actually way more terrifying to us, because we've, as a society, experienced this firsthand. And this movie really captured that perfectly. And, it's just really I would probably say definitely top 5 found footage movies ever. And, of course, I know, Jeremy, you and I were talking about it. The monster design of the Cloverfield monster, we had never seen anything like that either up until that point, and it's so unique, and it's terrifying, but it's also really interesting and organic in its own way, and I just really appreciate it now more than ever. I'll never forget seeing it in theaters and just being like, shaky cam, lots of shaky cam, but watching it much later, as a more mature person, yes, it connected with me a lot more on a deeper level. So my number 5 is Cloverfield.
It's crazy. I've actually never seen Cloverfield.
Oh. All right, let's make a promise to each other right now.
Yeah.
I will.
Let's also not forget. Have either of you watched Possessor yet? Yeah.
I was talking
Let's make
about
two promises to each other. Let's make 2 promises to each other right now.
But question though, Brady, have you seen 10 Cloverfield Lane?
No, because I felt like I couldn't see that if I hadn't seen Cloverfield.
You could see it. I mean, honestly, I'll be straight up with you. I actually prefer 10 Cloverfield Lane. It's one of my favorite movies. Probably, definitely top 50 movies. John Goodman's absolutely brilliant in it. But yeah. Right. Technically, you don't need to watch Cloverfield before you see it. They are connected in their own way.
And I will watch
Darkness Falls. Darkness Falls and Possessor.
All right.
Yes.
Done.
There we are.
All right. So,
Blood
now
Oath.
it's back to me for my... okay, well. My number 4...
But Blood Oath.
Is... hemorrhoids? Sure. 2000...
Really painful. Really painful.
Let me get to my fucking number 4. But... God damn it. Just scrap the episode. 2007's 30 Days of Night. Absolutely fantastic vampire movie. I think you're here at the peak of Josh Hartnett before his renaissance, his resurgence. But in
the Hartnett-essence,
if you will. Dude, it's in fucking Alaska during their 30 Days of Night, and it's just, Danny Houston plays a vampire, a terrifying vampire at that. And people are just getting ripped to shreds. These vampires are coming out of the dark. It has kind of that weird 2007's grimy grunge look that you kind of get from like Sin City.
The really edgy look to it, for sure.
Yeah, and I love it. And it's such a terrifying concept. And for those who have seen it, haven't seen it, I won't spoil it, but it's kind of like the new season of True Detective. Like, it takes place in this same setting,
very much
same
so.
time frame. And so, it's so fucking good. It's one of my favorite vampire movies ever. If you guys haven't seen it, go see it. But I couldn't make this list without putting 30 Days of Night on there.
Major props to Ben Foster in that movie too, because he's he's a great character actor, but I absolutely love him in that movie. Another one I saw in theaters. Love the shit out of it. I'll be straight up. It's not on my list because I did my best. I tried to stay away from, if I was going to include anything vampire-like, I was like, I can't have more than one on the list. So, amazing pick. I love this movie. I own it. I saw it in theaters opening night, and it blew me away. I definitely see those comparisons with that and the new season of True Detective. It's such a great setting, the 30 Days of Night in Alaska, because it automatically makes you feel claustrophobic and closed in and uncomfortable because it's literally night constantly.
Yeah.
So
I would go absolutely crazy. Like,
I
get upset when I wake up at like 7 o'clock in the morning and it's still pitch black out. But if I were to walk around at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's just pitch black, I'd be like, what the fuck? I couldn't handle it.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Stir crazy.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly. Cabin fever, just on a very large scale. But
100%.
Number 4. Jeremy, what about you?
Man.
Well, before I move on to mine, dude, I love that movie. I love how truly the vampires in 30 Days of Night were actual monsters. Like, they were savage.
Yeah.
There was no human qualities. There was no compassion. They were bloodthirsty monsters that were there for one purpose only. And the movie's absolutely fantastic. It holds up great. I've seen the sequel. It was direct-to-video, and it's been many, many years. But I remember...
Is that Dark Days?
Yeah, I think it is called Dark Days. I remember really fucking digging the direct-to-video sequel, too. I don't know whether, that'll hold true if I rewatch it now. But, maybe check out the sequel, too, if you like that one. So, my number 4 is about Two death-obsessed sisters, outcast in their suburban neighborhood, must deal with the tragic consequences when one of them is bitten by a deadly werewolf. I'm talking about Ginger Snaps, baby, from 2000. Dude.
Great
now
pick.
widely considered a classic. To a lot of people.
Dude, I was obsessed with this movie. This came out when I was a sophomore in high school, and this is back when video stores were still very prevalent, man. Like, I was still actively going to the video store every single week, trying to find, a new horror movie that it's kind of like the way that I liken it is going on YouTube, right? And just going down a spitfall of trying to find a new artist, right? So you just keep clicking on videos, trying to find a new artist that you're going to be like, fuck, I really love their music. And now I've got this new thing that I can, cling on to and really appreciate. That's what going to the video store was like for me. Like, I would go and, man, I would study these fucking movies. The box art, the synopsis on the side, who's in it, who directed it. And the new release wall was always super fun because, like, dude, the internet was, it was a thing, but it wasn't like...
It was in its infancy,
yeah,
really.
Absolutely. So it wasn't like I'm like, oh, let me go on all these things and check out all these reviews. And that shit didn't really exist. You found out by...
We didn't do that back then.
No, man. Like, so, this was a movie that I remember getting and being like, Ginger Snaps. Like, kind of a cheesy-ass title, but...
I love the title because it instantly grabs your attention. Just like you're saying right now, you're like, Ginger Snaps?
I'm like,
what the fuck is Ginger Snaps?
I've always loved werewolf movies. And most of the times, they're a letdown. I've said that on the show before. But I always get excited for them because I'm like, dude, I'm just waiting. Because we get one super solid werewolf movie, it seems like only once every, 10 years. I could be fucking wrong on that. I don't know. But... Ginger Snaps, man, I remember...
Sounds right.
Yeah, Ginger Snaps, man, I remember I took it home and I watched it and I was just like, holy fuck, man. I loved the acting from Catherine Isabelle and Emily Perkins. Emily Perkins, obviously, she played Little Bev in the Tommy Lee Wallace directed It miniseries from 1990. Catherine Isabelle later got some stardom from, starring in Freddy vs. Jason.
Horror icon.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So I loved this movie. I loved the dark tone. I loved the dark humor of it. It's got Mimi Rogers in it as the mom, which is like super random. Wasn't she like Tom Cruise's first wife or some shit like that? Wasn't that a thing? Or who am I thinking of? Is that her?
Wasn't? I thought that was what's her name? Nicole Kidman.
No, hold on.
Was that a second wife?
Nicole Kidman wasn't married. She was married to Tom Cruise, bro.
Hold on.
Who'd you just say?
Mimi Rogers. Yeah, hold on. Tom Cruise, Mimi Rogers.
Tom Cruise was married to Nicole Kidman.
Wait,
I don't know about Tom Hanks. I don't know what.
Oh, you said Tom Hanks. I'm sorry. I thought you said Tom Cruise. I'm really sorry to the Hanks family.
All I know about Mimi Rogers that I could find real quick is that at the beginning of her acting career that she lived with Kirstie Alley. I don't know anything about who she was married to.
Hold on, I'm looking it up. Yep. Fuck yeah, baby. Fuck yeah, baby. Tom Cruise was married to Mimi Rogers from 1987, and they got divorced in 1990.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there it is. There you are.
And then he married Nicole Kidman in 1990. So he didn't waste no time.
And then he married Katie Holmes, and I don't think he's married now, but
nope.
No.
So, anyways, it's got
Listen, we love doing Tom Cruise trivia in the middle of the episode.
His dick is Mission Impossible now, if you know what I'm saying.
So yeah, this
Anyways.
this has some really cool practical effects work in it. The werewolf looks fantastic. The ending of this movie was tragic for me and for most viewers, and I really dig this one a lot. So much so that, man, I have an 8x10. This is how long ago it was that I had Catherine Isabelle sign when I met her in 2000, probably 6 or 2007. And so it's a picture of her and Emily Perkins from Ginger Snaps, right? Catherine Isabel signed it. I've legitimately waited almost 20 years and still don't have Emily Perkins. Now, she does conventions too. She just doesn't do them often, and when she does them, they're typically not on the East Coast and shit like that. So one day I will get the last autograph I need on that 8x10 because I love ginger snaps. So that was my number 4.
Dude, another amazing thing about that movie that I have to bring up, and I know you're a huge fucking fan, Glassjaw is on the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Killswitch Engage, Soulfly, Fear Factory, Hatebreed, Saliva. I mean, it's got a great fucking soundtrack as well that Roadrunner Records released, and I remember that shit for sure.
Dude,
so
yeah, this fucking
great
era
pick.
of movies with their soundtracks, man.
Yeah,
H2O
horror movies
with,
used to
Creed
get
on it.
great fucking
Yeah.
soundtracks, man. They used to get great soundtracks.
Yeah.
Shit just doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't.
What about you, man?
But moving along, my number 4 comes from the guy that, wow, I mean, if you go on Twitter right now, you won't browse more than 3 or 4 accounts without seeing his fucking name because he now runs DC Film. I'm talking about 2006's Slither, which is still my favorite James Gunn movie. Fuck y'all. I have no issue with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies at all whatsoever. They're fantastic movies. His The Suicide Squad, also loved the shit out of it. But this movie is literally the definition of a monster movie. A small town in South Carolina being invaded by malevolent little alien parasites that are absolutely disgusting. I mean, I knew girls at the time when this came out that I was seeing or whatever, maybe whoever I was dating at the time, refusing to see the movie because the bathtub scene or whatever in the trailer. They're like, I'm not going to see that shit. Because think about it. I mean, like, it's icky as shit. The movie is gross as fuck. There's a great mixture for 2006 of CGI and practical effects. And of course, you have Grant, played by Michael Rooker, who turns into this massive, like, fucking appalling creature at the end, like covered in KY jelly. Just absolutely fantastic as he's, trying to woo Elizabeth Banks, his wife, and then Nate Fillion's in the movie as well. Great cast. It's just a blast of a movie. I watch this one from time to time, just throw it on because it's so much fucking fun. We don't get movies like this anymore that are, overtly tongue-in-cheek, silly, tons of creatures, awesome practical effects. This one was just an absolute blast for me. It didn't blow up the box office or anything like that, but I remember seeing it and having a really good time with it.
Great pick.
So that's my number 4.
I still
actually
often quote, "Something's wrong with me," from that.
I didn't see that for the first time until maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and I loved it first time seeing it, and even after all this time it's come out. So great pick. Moving along to our top 3 here.
Woo.
For me, Jeremy, it's funny that you mentioned a werewolf movie as your last one, because I also have a werewolf movie coming in for my number 3, and that is a 2002 British action horror film by Neil Marshall called Dog Soldiers.
Amazing fucking movie.
I know on the podcast we all love American Werewolf in London, The Howling, but I think this is up there in the same ranks. I think that this is
100%.
a completely
No
underrated horror movie, werewolf movie too, but it's so fucking good. Like, the practical effects are on point, the comedy is on point, it's the gore is on point. Like, there's even little things they do, like, there's tons of things that happen in movies where there seems to be like unlimited ammo, but in this one they're like really talking like, hey, make sure you do 3-round bursts because we have to conserve ammo because we're out in the middle of fucking nowhere on a training. There's scenes that are so reminiscent of Alien or Aliens, and like you just get tons of references to that throughout the movie too. And there's one scene that really sticks out to me. It's like the werewolf is trying to get in the door. One of the soldiers like puts his back against it and barricades it, and then the claws start coming through. And instinctively, he just like starts beating the shit out of the claws like they're nails. And I was like, that's exactly what you would do in that situation. It's just a fun movie. It's gory. Like, there's scenes of the werewolf ripping through intestines of people, and it makes you queasy. And I I feel like a lot of people do know about it, but it doesn't get talked about quite as much as the other werewolf movies. And we always talk about how werewolf movies have just declined over the years, and this is.
Well, I mean,
go ahead.
Apparently, Neil Marshall's been saying for the past decade that if he can get the funding, the script is ready or whatever. He wants to make this. The sequel,
yeah, that's been in limbo for so long, and I don't understand how he went from this and made a really shitty Hellboy movie.
Listen, honestly, I'm not even going to shit on him for that Hellboy movie because his mind was in the right place. There was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, a lot of hands in that cookie jar fucking around with shit. It wasn't necessarily his fault at all whatsoever. So it showed that his heart was in that movie. I don't think the movie was good, but it also wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen.
And I think it was good because he also said in some interviews that he wanted to get away from this trope of werewolf movies of them being cursed, right? And he was like, it's so exhausting that you always get this tortured soul, which is fine. We all love that, but it was really cool to really not have any care about what the werewolf was going through. Like, it's really just them fucking people up. Like, you care about the soldiers who are stuck there. Liam Cunningham is in it. He's fucking great in this, and then goes on to Game of Thrones. Yep. Incredible. So, yeah, number 3, Dog Soldiers.
Dude, I've been along
great pick,
the roller coaster for the sequel for this thing to get made for so long. So many. Dude, there was even a teaser trailer that was cut together several years ago. If I'm not mistaken, probably around 2010. Ish, there was a little teaser trailer that Neil Marshall made, and man, so many false starts and letdowns. So I've kind of given up hope on a sequel to it, which is okay. Not every fantastic fucking movie needs a sequel, and Dog Soldiers is a fantastic movie. It's literally, if you've never seen Dog Soldiers, it's literally the movie Aliens, but with werewolves in the woods. Like, dude, it's fucking awesome. You should run and check that out right now. But my number 3 is also a Neil Marshall film.
Oh my god, are we both gonna cross over on our number 3s? Because I think we are.
The Descent, baby.
That's right. Yeah, it's also my number 3.
Dude, yeah. And this movie, I remember renting it, and I was living in an apartment at the time, and it was the first time that I'd lived on my own, you know what I'm saying? Like, a couple years after graduating high school, and I rented this movie, and me and a buddy watched it at nighttime. It was pitch black. We watched the movie. It scared dude, some of the jump scares in this movie are so fucking good. They're not cheap, dude. They're like legitimate scares.
Nightmare fuel.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And you guys know that one specific type of movie that I like is movies with characters in impossible situations that they're desperately trying to find a way out of. That is what The Descent is. And it is it's about a caving expedition that goes horribly wrong as the explorers become trapped and ultimately pursued by a strange breed of predators. So basically it's like these like thrill-seeking chicks that go and explore caves, unexplored caves and shit like that. They're in this cave system when they realize that these caves are inhabited by inbred monster mutants, basically. And it's almost like bat people. Like, they kind of look like bat creatures.
That's how I've always. I mean, they're called the crawlers or something. They look like bat people to me. That's always what I've thought.
Yeah, dude, they're fucking terrifying, man. And I just remember watching this movie and having so much fun with it, and it being terrifying, and it making me jump out of my seat several times. And I love it, man. There's a sequel to this one too. Sequel's pretty solid, not as good as the first one, but god damn if I don't love this one. So that is my number 3.
Nice.
Great pick. And yeah, I'll just kind of piggyback off what you said. This one, I mean, I tried to, every movie on my list, I tried to make it one that I saw in theaters. And this one I'll never forget, going with my buddy Nick Martinson. He used to sponsor the show. He owned Evil Tea before it went away. Martinson, shout out to you. I know you don't fucking listen because you don't watch fucking movies, but it was himself and his girlfriend at the time, and they were not horror people at all whatsoever. But they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm going to see this movie, The Descent." I'm like, "We'll go with you." And it was just us three and I think maybe two other people in the theater. I was at the Regal and Front Street in Binghamton. And everything you said was perfect, Jeremy. But what I felt the most from this movie was just outright claustrophobia. Like the small areas that they were in this cave just made me feel so uncomfortable. And then you realize what they're actually up against. The build up to when you actually see something is perfection. And then when you do, you're like, oh my God. When you see these crawlers or whatever that are apparently just underground creatures that just like, I guess, stayed underground. They've evolved in this environment over thousands of years, and they've just adapted to thrive in the cave. They can't see, but they have like perfect hearing. So that's why they can fucking climb like crazy. They just live in this habitat constantly, and they're not used to seeing humans. So when the shit hits the fan, it goes insane. And I also find it interesting that it's a movie where the cast of characters, it's all female, and they're not the most likable characters. They're really not, but you're still rooting for them. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they're all unique and individual, and the writing is extremely well done. This movie, unlike Dog Soldiers, which really didn't do much financially, was only made for like $4 million and made $57 million. So it was actually a huge hit for Marshall and opened the door for him to be able to do so many other movies. So, yep, fucking great pick. Number 3, a classic, The Descent.
Nice. My number 2 has already been talked about. And it's probably no surprise that a Stephen King adaptation falls on my list, but it is The Mist, as Jeremy already talked about. Jeremy, you hit it on the head, but it's just such a fucking good psychological horror too, and a creature feature at the same time. Going into some backstory a little bit, Darabont had wanted to do something like The Mist as his first adaptation for King, and then did not. Went with Shawshank Redemption, which, wow, big loss, right? And then went with The Green Mile afterwards, because he wanted to make a very direct, muscular kind of film. He went with The Mist, and he actually rewrote the ending. So the ending that happens in the movie is not what happens in the book. And King loved it, said the ending is such a jolt, it's frightening, but people who go to see a horror movie don't necessarily want to be sent out with a Pollyanna ending. And you definitely don't get that with this movie. There's really no relief at all through this movie, and that's the kind of film that I like. From the moment that it opens with Thomas Jane's character, David, painting a mural, to them being in the store, to the creature showing up, to them escaping only to have one of the saddest endings, I think, in recent horror films. There's no relief. You're always being subjected to something that's making you upset. And it's great. It's fantastic. It tugs at your heartstrings too. And like you said, Justin, this is probably a career defining role and performance for Thomas Jane. I love him in The Punisher. I think it's a fun movie, but this is really where he shows his chops of what he can do. And I wish that he had gotten a chance to do more movies like this. But yeah, I could go on and on and on about this, but we already talked about it. So yeah, number 2, The Mist.
So you mentioned Thomas Jane's character painting. Do you remember which painting is also visible when he's painting?
It's from The Dark Tower, right?
And The Thing.
Yeah.
Of course.
I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
That meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where Leonardo DiCaprio's character stops. He's like, whoop, 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 whoop. That's you anytime that comes on.
Dude.
Like, oh, there it is. There it is.
I mean, dude, yeah. He's got the Drew Struzan painting in his art studio. So I'm like, The Thing 1982. What can I say?
What can you say?
What can I?
Well, that can't be on your list, Jeremy, because that didn't come out in the 2000s.
I know.
He's like, well, in 2001, I watched it for the 18th time.
That's accurate.
So it does fucking count.
Accurate. My number 2 came out in 2008, and it deals with a group of friends that venture deep into the streets of New York on a rescue mission during a rampaging monster attack. I'm talking about Cloverfield. This movie was so monumental for me. This was one of the best marketing campaigns of any movie to date at that time, and it really redefined how movies are promoted now. The marketing on this movie, there could be a whole documentary just about how this film was marketed, because they were so fucking smart with how they marketed this movie. So they let you know this is a giant monster movie. Or is it? What is it? Mm-hmm. Is it a monster movie? They didn't show you the monster in the trailer, right? And even the first teaser trailer. I remember seeing the first teaser trailer, and it was like the Statue of Liberty's head being thrown like down the street. And it's like, it just had a date. It didn't even tell you the fucking movie's name, if I'm recalling correctly. So I'm like, what is this, right? So this was the first like viral campaign for a film where it was like, it gave you the website address, and every day, like, you had to go and search for like clues, and it would open different things. And all people wanted was, what the fuck does the monster look like? And they started it so far ahead of the film's release that, like, literally, you know, if you could be on the website and it could be a tiny little clip, it could be about a drink called Slusho, right? Well, like, what significance does this drink Slusho have to the plot of this? So I just remember I was on the website, like, fucking every day, like a crackhead, dude. Like, trying to, like, what is this? What is this? I had to know. Dude, I had to know so much that I went to go see this on a Friday when it released, or whenever the fuck it released. I went to a 10 a.m. screening. It was the very first screening of the movie, because I was like, dude, I just want to know what the fuck this thing is. And so I watched it, and goddamn, I loved every moment of it. And when you finally get to see the monster, it was like 6 months of like fucking anticipation to finally get a look at this thing. And I still think it is, it's my favorite giant monster movie. It just is. It hits checks all the boxes for me. I love the monster design. I love the characters. I love that it doesn't overly explain itself either. Like, it gives you glimpses, like when, even in the last shot of the movie that takes place before all the events, when they're on the Ferris wheel and you can kind of see in the background something falling from the sky, like little nuggets like that it doesn't overly explain everything to you. Like, is this a monster that like went plummeting into the ocean and woke up? Or was it an asteroid that went into the ocean and woke up something that's been in the ocean sleeping all this time? Like, it never explains things. And I find it fascinating, and I still love it so much to this day. One of my biggest regrets when it comes to this movie is I remember going to Potomac Mills Mall, and there was a KB toy store in there. And this was a while after the movie was released. And they had a fucking Cloverfield, like, huge, like, probably like 14-inch figure, right? It was from McFarlane or one of those companies. And I remember, and it, like, dude, they had like knocked some of the price down, so it was like only like $50, something like that. And I remember I picked it up, and I was like, really? And I remember at that time, it was like, dude, I was living on my own, you know, paying all the bills for the first time, and the shit was real lean, right? So I just remember being like, man, I really want this, but like, should I buy this? And I didn't. I decided to be a responsible person, probably the only time in my life, as I'm looking at all the shit that's surrounding me right now. And I put it back. I put it back. Bro, if you guys get time, look up how much that action figure sells for now.
I am looking at it right now. I just saw one for $880.
Dude, it has haunted me to this day. I'm like, God damn it, you should have bought one. Now I'll never have it.
They must have been extremely rare, because, dude, I was going into KB. I was going into Toys R Us at that time. I've been collecting figures my entire life. I never stopped. I don't recall seeing it, but by looking at it now, I mean, dude, seriously.
It's epic, dude. It's epic.
I got to throw it in your face. You should have fucking bought it. You should have bought it.
Severely fucked up. And eBay lets me know dude, that.
It's badass.
It is.
It's badass.
It is, man. I love it. You know, and they're talking, before we go to your pick, Justin, they are talking about doing a proper Cloverfield sequel that would actually be a direct continuation of the first film, because these Cloverfield movies, man, they've kind of gone in a Twilight Zone direction with it, where it's just Cloverfield is kind of just the name, and it's just different stories.
Well, let's face it. The Cloverfield Paradox was a bad fucking movie. I'll never forget them last minute releasing it on Netflix. Not last minute, but like trying to be a surprise. Like they aired the commercial on the Super Bowl, like, watch it tonight at this time. And I fucking rushed home from my brother-in-law's to watch it. And it's supposed to connect to the original, and it was just a really bad, generic ass movie.
It was an afterthought. In post-production, when they filmed it, they never filmed it to be intended to be a direct continuation of the first film. In post-production, they were like, if we added these couple little things, it'd be a nice, like, tie together. So it connecting to the original Cloverfield, it really doesn't. It was an afterthought. This new movie that J.J. Abrams and company is talking about doing is apparently supposed to be a direct continuation of the very first Cloverfield movie, which I'm down with. I'm also cool with it just being a one-off, but I would love to see more Clovey. Let's be honest.
I would too. I just hope it's good.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like I said, I think I love 10 Cloverfield Lane. I think it was fantastic. So
fantastic.
It'd be cool if they went that direction, but either way, I digress. My number 2, going in a slightly different direction here, is from 2005, directed by legendary film director Peter Jackson. It's King Kong, his remake of King Kong, epic monster adventure. I mean, the guy had dreamed since he was a small child of remaking King Kong, and what he put on the screen was a beautiful, epic, entertaining movie. I saw it opening night with my sister Tara, and I remember her being like, she would go to movies with me once in a while, but we were halfway through it, and she's like, is this almost over? I'm like, no, this shit's almost 4 hours. And there was actually an intermission for the movie, because make no mistake, it is long as fuck, okay? It's super long, but for the time, I mean, Andy Serkis did all the motion capture. This is hot on the heels of him being Gollum in The Lord of the Rings, and his performance as King Kong it's a thing of beauty. It really is just perfection in terms of a performance, and the relationship that the character Andero, played by Naomi Watts, has with Kong is a thing of beauty in itself. It's just a lovely film with great action. I mean, you see for the first time on screen King Kong actually battling it out with 2 T-Rexes. There's all kinds of different dinosaurs. There's giant insects. I mean, the movie, he had to cut a bunch of that shit out. I mean, the swamp scene, if you own the Blu-ray now and all the special features, you could watch that stuff, all the extra stuff he cut out, like the stuff in the cave. But, I mean, for a monster lover, and for me growing up, King Kong was always one of my favorite things. Jeremy, ever since you've known me, you've known I've loved King Kong. I remember early in our friendship, you actually gifted me a giant King Kong figure, because you're like, I don't have room for that shit.
Yeah.
And like, I've just always loved Kong as a character. And I think for the first time in my life, at least, I got to see my version of King Kong up until that point, and just loved the movie. Fantastic. I do think, and I've said this, I've gone on record on this show since the beginning, that I think Jack Black was horribly miscast in the movie, but it's fine. He doesn't ruin the thing for me, because we have Adrian Brody in the movie.
What a guy.
And of course, Jamie Bell in the movie, Colin Hanks, just a wonderful cast. It's a gorgeous movie to look at. Even watching it now in retrospect, it still holds up. A lot of it. The stampede scene, I won't say much about, but the rest of it, great monster movie, very heartfelt. The drama is intact. Wonderful movie. One of the best remakes of all time, for sure. So my number 2 is Peter Jackson's King Kong.
I absolutely love that pick. Like you said, the whole movie is fantastic, but parts that stick out to me are when they first get to the island and they're being taken captive by the natives, and just like, oh man, I think it's Colin Hanks's character when he gets killed, and then it's just pure pandemonium, and those weird shots that are like cutting and like fading in and out. Like, it's so good. Like, they're in a dance.
I mean, dude, Jackson being a horror director first, we know he's an icon for that. He employed a lot of that visual style to the movie, which makes the Skull Island stuff really fucking scary. And the build up to the first time you see Kong is just it's so amazing. It's such a great feeling when he finally shows up. And then of course just all the stuff with him playing with Anne and getting to know her. It's just, you're just watching a giant ape and a woman getting to know each other, but it's just beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. So yep.
All right. Well, that brings us to
number fucking one.
Here we are. And it's no surprise to you guys what I'm going to pick. But my number one is from 2002. It's from director Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. 28 Days Later, I think it's arguably one of the best infection movies ever. Justin, I'm sure you'll talk about it. And if it comes up on yours and your part, that this is just... it's not really a zombie movie, it's definitely there, but it's more of an infected person movie. They're scary, they're cunning, they're fast. I mean, there are scenes in this movie where there's a kitchen scene where a light comes on and then it goes to the outside and it shows the infected person sees it and just sprints through the doorway. Like, you're not safe. It's not like your traditional, it's not your parents' zombie movie, right? Like it's these things are chasing after you. There's no escape. You're constantly being hunted down by this mass infection. The cinematography is beautiful. The score is haunting and beautiful. The character work is so fucking good with Cillian Murphy and Brendan Gleeson, Megan Burns. It's just, there's nothing bad about this movie. It's so good. It's so hopeless at times, but it's so fucking good. And they just announced today that we're going to get the sequel written by Danny Boyle and Alex Garland. And I think Danny Boyle, correct me if I'm wrong, is directing the first one, but part two, they haven't decided on a director yet.
Also, I don't know if Killian's coming back to be in them, but he's going to be executive producer. I mean, there's potential for him to come back, but they haven't confirmed if he will or not yet.
And then this one, I mean, like I said, it basically started the whole running zombie phase, right? And you could say that it revitalized the zombie genre and really pushed it forward, because after this, a couple years later, we get The Walking Dead, right? The Dawn of the Dead remake comes out a couple years after this too. It's so fucking good. It's one that I love to revisit, and I need to revisit soon, especially with the news coming out. But this is always going to be in the top list of a monster movie for me.
I just rewatched 28 Days Later and then 28 Weeks Later. What's funny is that 28 Weeks Later, I remember watching it when it came out and me thinking, man, I loved this just as much as the first one. I loved how bigger scale they made it. Let me tell you what, man, that shit did not hold up on that rewatch, boy. Like,
I could have told you that.
That shit did not hold up. I was like, man, especially having watched 28 Days Later and then immediately watching 28 Weeks Later, I was like, holy shit, like, you can't even compare the two. Like, the sequel is just not great. There's cool moments to it, but it's not a great film. 28 Days Later, though, man, it takes some plays out of the Romero playbook, right? Like, as far as like kind of holing up and finding a family unit with survivors. It has a lot of similar themes that was introduced in Dawn of the Dead. And the biggest Romero example within 28 Days Later is that, there's these awful fucking virus rage monsters running around. But guess what's even worse? We are. Humans, people are always the fucking worst, man. We're always whatever is out there. It's just like what I said during, talking about The Mist. You put people in a, me or them scenario, and it turns people into fucking savages. And Romero knew this all too well, and that's 28 Days Later. That's what makes it fucking fantastic, is when they finally think that they found refuge. It's a fucking prison, basically, and it's like they're held captive to these awful fucking people. That movie is so good. The young girl that's in the film, she's not a young girl anymore because the movie came out a long time ago, and I follow her on Instagram. And it's wild that much time has passed, and I am beyond excited for a sequel, a proper sequel to come out to this.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Number one.
Sorry, I was
You're
reading,
number
I was
one.
reading something at the same time, and I was like, "Oh, he ended." My bad.
You were like, exactly.
I concur.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when somebody said something to you and you don't know what they said, and you just smile and nod your head, and they're like, "Nah, dude, you just stepped in a pile of shit." It's like,
sorry.
oh, god damn it.
I'm sorry. I was listening, but I was trying to read more about this article about the sequel. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Oh my god. All right. My number one came out in 2001. It's about oh shit, I hit the table. It's about a brother and sister driving home through an isolated countryside for spring break as they encounter a flesh-eating creature which is in the midst of its ritualistic eating spree. Here's the deal. Controversial. I get it. Some people that run podcasts, they wouldn't fucking mention this movie out of the sheer controversy of the fact that the director is a humongous pile of shit. I agree. The director is a humongous pile of shit. Victor Salva equals poo-poo. I saw Jeepers Creepers when it was in theaters, and like I said, it came out in 2001. So again, I was in high school, and I remember watching this movie in the theaters and thinking like, holy fuck, we're getting a new horror icon. Like, because the creeper looked badass. It was an original story. It was a fantastic monster movie. It had a shock ending. It had everything that I love about the horror genre in this movie. It was just absolutely fantastic. And it's a fucking great movie. You know, so this is a situation of I separate the art from the artist. The artist is a piece of shit. I love Jeepers Creepers. It always holds up for me, and it holds a special place in my heart for monster movies, especially because of the age that I was at. You know,
Me too, man. I mean, we're similar age. I remember seeing it in theaters, and it was just eye-opening to like. It was something fresh, and it felt awesome that we were at that age to experience that.
It was amazing, and you know, discovering new horror films that you know, being able to watch them in the theater also, because you know, I had parents that would let me rent horror movies, but my parents were never like, hey, let me go take you to see this horror film. So finally being the age where I could kind of go and watch horror movies in the movie theater for the first time, it was just a different experience, a different time in my life, and it's a time that I look back on fondly, and I think that this movie is a fucking home run, dude. This was like our introduction, at least my introduction to Justin Long, and the guy is a fucking staple in the horror genre now. And this is kind of where he cut his teeth, man. This was his introduction, and he was absolutely fantastic in this movie. The movie was scary too, man. This was not a tongue-in-cheek monster movie. I felt like this was scary, man.
There was legitimate suspense in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, them being chased down the highway. That's almost like Steven Spielberg's Duel. You know what I mean? Like with that huge, iconic, rusted ass truck behind them, and you know when you actually see what the creeper looks like and everything, it's like some pretty scary shit.
Dude,
man.
the fact that it's like this fucking green monster that has wings that is wearing like this long coat with like a fucking cowboy hat. A cowboy hat. Like, dude,
it's a derby.
Dude, one of the coolest fucking like, they must have like just been throwing shit at the wall to see what would stick. Like, all right, now put that fucking hat on him. Yep, there it is. Like,
dude, he kind of reminds me of Ric Flair at certain close-ups, like with the hair too, like with the white flowy hair in the back.
Yeah, the wispy hair. So
yeah.
I mean, dude, I just remembered the scene where the creeper is throwing the bodies that's wrapped in the sheets down the tunnel, and man, just like the movie it was parts of it almost played like a Hitchcock type movie until the reveal that no, this is a fucking monster. I don't know, man. It's always held a special place in my heart, and it always will. In my opinion, it's the only good Jeepers Creepers movie. Kind of like,
I also agree with you on that.
kind of like Jurassic Park, man. You know,
hey, I wouldn't go that far. Listen,
there's only one good Jurassic Park movie, and it's the first one. The other ones are just great entertainment popcorn films. So that's how I feel about Jeepers Creepers. It's the only one that's good. The sequels, take them for what they are. That's as good as it's gonna get.
Well, it's funny you mentioned 2001 because that year another great movie came out, and it was Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. So just wanted to throw that out there because that is a classic movie.
There you go.
It's great.
There you go, Josh Hartnett.
Well,
Josh Hartnett.
Yeah, okay.
The Hartnett Renaissance.
I mean, yeah.
And then he was supposed to play Superman after that.
He auditioned for Superman.
He should have been Superman.
He also auditioned to play Batman for Christopher Nolan too. So,
well,
that would have been interesting.
Maybe he shouldn't have been that.
Anyways, to my number one, which was not mentioned by anybody else.
Wow.
On this at all, and I looked at it as in, are there monsters in it? And there are. So I said, fuck it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. 2007, but it did not get a wide theatrical release, but now it is widely considered one of the most beloved horror anthology movies of all time, written and directed by Michael Dougherty. I'm talking about his directorial debut, Trick or Treat.
Great.
And we have a little tiny pumpkin man, little demon monster named Sam, which is now tattooed on like thousands of people. They have action figures, stuffed animals. We have pillows. We have maquettes. We have statues. We have literally everything of this character. And the movie also has werewolves as well in it.
Awesome looking werewolves too.
Awesome werewolves. Yeah. And not only that, but we have Anna Paquin playing one of the werewolves. Her name is Lori in the movie, and she is absolutely fucking stunning. Turning
Agreed.
From wearing this naive, soft and quiet, gentle girl wearing a Little Red Riding Hood outfit to then, basically taking Dylan Baker's fucking throat out.
Yeah.
There's so much I could say about this movie. We've never covered it on the show. I hope to, at least at some point, because there's so much we could talk about with it. But there's nothing to dislike about this movie. It is extremely well written. It's one of the best anthologies ever of all time. I think that's probably why Dougherty's been dragging his feet on this, because it will be hard to top, make no mistake. I mean, or even it'll be hard to even come close to the brilliance. It just, things line up sometimes and they're cinematic miracles, and I think Trick or Treat is one of those. And even though it didn't get a theatrical release, really, I mean, it had a couple screenings and then it like kind of just didn't go anywhere. Warner Brothers just didn't care about it and then released it on DVD and Blu-ray. Now we're getting screenings of it. I screened it myself last year at Alamo Drafthouse in our largest theater, and it was fucking sold out. I mean, this movie's just such a big deal, and now a Halloween classic. People watch it right along with John Carpenter's Halloween and every other Halloween special. It's got everything in it that you want, much like Jeremy said in one of his picks earlier. It's just, it's fun. There's scary, suspenseful parts, just well-written characters. It's gorgeously shot, and it has all the motherfucking Halloween vibes. So, number one, Trick or Treat. That's my top pick. That's really it for me.
Exactly.
That's great, man.
Exactly.
I don't really have many honorable mentions. Jeepers Creepers would have been one of them as well. I did have that listed. And Jeremy, I applaud you for being yourself and having it on your list and separating the art from the artist. Part of me felt like I wanted to include it, but it just didn't make the cut anyways, because I do as well love that movie. And another movie that I did want to include that I thought about, which is Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. There's some of the best, most amazing monsters ever put on film in Pan's Labyrinth. It's less about the monsters and more about the characters in that movie, where it's dark fantasy, and I still could have put it in there, but I felt like it's really more of its own thing. So that's really the only strong honorable mention I had. Did you guys have any on your list at all?
I had a couple, yeah. Jeepers Creepers would have been on there. I also would have put Cursed on there because I think it's
oh god,
it's a great watch.
Dude, grab a bottle of fucking Jack Daniels and pound that shit while you're watching it, and you'll have a blast.
Silent Hill probably would have made the cut. I also really did like The Cave. The Descent would have been on there too. The Descent would have made my list, but I put a vampire movie on there, and I wanted to make room for some other ones.
See, that's the same mentality, my friend.
Slither, and the one that I was worried about that wouldn't fit, but I think it may have, was the Hills Have Eyes remake.
Dude, yeah,
I know they're
absolutely
not technically monsters.
They're monsters, dude. If you see that one of those motherfuckers in the dark in an alley and it's coming at you, it's a goddamn monster. So I think you would have been safe.
If that thing's breaking into my RV at 1 a.m. when I'm broken down in the middle of the desert, yeah, it's a monster. But yeah, so Hills Have Eyes. I didn't know if I should include it or not, but it's a great fucking movie. And it is fucking terrifying. Those things are little, nasty, disgusting creatures. So,
not little. They're fucking. Some of those are huge. Pluto, isn't that the main one that was played by Michael Bailey Smith, who was Super Freddy. Dude, I would say you'd be safe with that because if one of those motherfuckers was approaching me in an alley, or breaking into my house, I'd think, okay, well, there's some goddamn monsters. So yeah, I'd say that fits.
Yeah, and then the one guy who plays the son-in-law, the husband and the dad of the kids was Aaron Stanford, and he played Pyro in X2 and X3.
Oh,
remember that? He like joined Magneto's forces.
Yeah, he had the whole thing with the Zippo lighter constantly flickering it out.
Yeah,
edgy and shit.
He looked a lot like Cillian Murphy. And I also probably would have put in Wrong Turn because it's like kind of like the same thing. Like it's the same vibe as like these incest things. So, loved the original Wrong Turn movie. But yeah, that's what I would have had.
Well, there it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is our top 5 monster movies of the 2000s, aka 2000 to 2010. Thanks so much for listening. If it's your first time, thanks for checking us out. If you're a continuing listener of the show, we love you for checking out every single episode and supporting us. If you want to check us out on social media, we're all over the place at Epic Film Guys on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, literally everywhere you want to find people. And of course, we're on every place, every podcatcher that you would want to listen to podcasts as well. But, that's really it for now. We're looking forward to all of the upcoming content we have for you guys. And yeah, as we always like to say, we like to ask you to keep it.
Someone's in your house.
Exactly.
Someone's in your house. Someone's in your house.